Now, a question I have for Jason is continual monitoring. Do y'all do, if you set up a space, are you running the continual monitoring 24/7 until that space is done? And if so, what are some of the advantages to that?
We are. Well, our camera vendors will have that as well, and we'll have a secondary system in place, which is just our typical 4-gas with a hose like Ridge talked about. Ridge is right. It is not generally a good representative sample. So those guys, the vendors that we bring in for confined space monitoring, they'll be able to hang equipment strategically inside. And similar to that, I have seen where we have, say, one distillation column with 5 different entry spaces separated by seal decks, and no intrusion from one to the other with, say, arc gouging at the bottom and blasting work in the second level and nozzle repair at the top, all ventilated appropriately and monitored appropriately, and gas testing clean, all monitored by the remote monitoring folks.
Okay.
Yeah,
You guys.
and the other part about that is, it's one thing people don't think of is that kind of those planners and organizers, they all can go into that VRM and look at the work being done. So, you can get a pretty good idea just like going in and seeing, kind of where they're progressing and how far along they are, is that you're not kind of in the gray or in the shadow, like, well, I'm not really sure how far we are with the job. You can literally go in, physically see them, and know and understand, how far they've done with welding or blasting or cleaning and all those things. It's also just a little indicator that everyone can go, see. Safety can go in, look, take a peek at what they're doing. So it's also the other great benefit of that.
So one piece that we haven't really discussed is something that's probably one of the most important pieces of it, is the emergency response aspect. So I'll start with you, Jason. What are some of the things you've seen and the advantages with the emergency response capabilities?
We've been notified of incidents and or potential incidents by the monitoring folks and nobody else. So I saw a column and I saw a fire in a main frac column at about an elevation of 100 feet that was reported to us via the remote monitoring folks, and nobody else recognized it. We feel like these people are so on their game that they're able to report before other people even recognize there's a hazard, particularly an entry attendant. I think we've all had conversations with entry attendants, and they vary. So
You can say it.
they vary. They're not always the most trained people on the job.
It's an entry-level position into
Right.
our industry.
And so one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking to Ridge, another piece to this, and I think it goes to the emergency response piece, but one of the vendors we used actually had a tablet, and they were able to they were mobile in the field, and it was intrinsically a safe tablet, and they were able to monitor. This was less spaces, it was on a capital project, but they were able to monitor those on their iPad as they were making their rounds from space to space as well.
Yeah, so from an emergency response perspective, have you seen anything or witnessed anything?
Yeah, so I agree with Jason. I think from the emergency response side, I think it's actually a lot quicker response. One, they can see it happening and evolving throughout the process, but two, with the emergency alarm system they typically have, they got red strobing lights. They'll notify operations right away if they see something on the cameras. And then with atmospheric monitoring, they can see, if CO levels are going up, or there's some type of, maybe power fork or some type of fire, you can see those levels going up. So they get that notification right away from those people doing the monitoring. So it's actually, like I said, a quicker response than potentially a whole watch or someone on different levels, because they can't see the whole space, right? So when Jason was saying, it might have 3 different stages, you're gonna have 3 different monitors. You may not have someone in that space at all times, but you'll have those cameras there all the time, so you'll be able to see what's going on and if there is some type of emergency in the space.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things that I've seen, one of the advantages I really like about it is when you have an emergency response going, the alarm's going, they recognize it, they sound the alarm, and they're actually talking to the emergency responders as they're going out there, telling them, hey, from the, they can go back and review the camera before they even get there. This is what happened. The guy fell off a scaffold or something, or the guy slipped on a wet spot in there, or something like that, right? So it's as an emergency responder, when you get there, it saves time from getting in because automatically, if you can rule out certain things, especially it being, the air, hey, this isn't a problem with the air, right? Well, how much quicker are you able to get in and help the individual? So it saves time on the emergency response.
To Ridge's point, they're able to evacuate a space quickly. They'll sound an alarm, begin evacuation of the space, switch over to the health and safety channel, let me know, and I'm already on foot climbing a vessel or whatnot. And that's all within, it's almost simultaneous because they can set off alarms, switch the radio. In the scenarios I've seen, there's generally multiple people in these BRMs, so somebody else can switch to the safety channel and say, hey, on this particular vessel, they're experiencing this issue. And you may not be actually talking to the person that's watching your space, but they're doing their checklist as well. So from a skeptic a decade ago, and I don't sell these systems, but I do think that they're worthwhile for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, some of the things when we talk about lessons learned and continuous improvement, like what are some of the things that you guys have learned through this process? Like maybe if we focus in on some of the, if you're going through the selection of the company, right, and you want to make sure that, what are some of the things you look for? Is it the equipment? Is it what they're trained in, or is it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination, and I think the more add-ons like the airflow changes, space temperature readings, things like that, I think the more of those types of things that they have and that are proven to be reliable are important. Another piece, one of the biggest concerns we've had with remote monitoring systems is temporary power loss. We know that in these big events, temporary power is a thing, and it generally comes at a premium with staging generators. We've seen the generators go down, cables get cut, and those are the things that have held up our camera systems. Now, they normally have a plan to deploy entry attendants to critical jobs, but sometimes that takes time to deploy. But similarly, and maybe a separate conversation for another time, but they're actually starting to use battery packs in place of generators, so you can monitor that maybe a little easier than fuel, or fuel sometimes gets forgotten about. So maybe we can bring that up another conversation.
All right. Thank you. What about you, Ridge?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Jason. I'm just trying to think. I mean, think of any downsides we've had in the past, and it's kind of hard to think of any. So that just tells you like how well those systems work. Because I think in the past, I think most of us can talk about attendance, not paying attention or alarms going off walking by. But when you come to remote monitoring, it's been hard to kind of think of those, just because those people are dedicated, they're trained, they have all the equipment, they're working with ops, working with everyone on site. It's just like a whole different level of experience and knowledge when it comes to those people, right? So, I mean, that's their job day in and day out. So they've seen it, they've been in places hundreds of times, multiple times. So it's not an entry level for them. It's what they do, right? So you just get a better quality of work when it comes to them and all the confined space monitoring and all the things associated with that.
All right. Well, thank you. And for Paul and Wendy, I'm glad you guys could come in, and I hope this answered some of y'all's questions.
It certainly did, yes.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for being a part of this, and thank you for watching the EHCMA Best Practices Remote Confined Space Monitoring Roundtable Discussion.